Right now, I'm in Fort Robinson State Park, and in 3 days, I visited every single state park in Nebraska. All 8 of them. Wait, just 8? Yep, for this series I've decided to only visit state park propers, and Nebraska only has 8 of those. They do have other parks in their state park system, like state recreation areas and state historical parks, so only 8 proper parks.
In my ongoing quest to visit every state park, state by state, I've been moving south through the plains and reached Nebraska. Now, of course, Nebraska and cool nature aren't often associated, but I hope you're willing to give it a chance and see what the Cornhusker State has in store. I start out in the northwest corner of the state with Fort Robinson.
Call me crazy, but I'm kind of excited to see the Nebraska state parks, maybe because there's only 8 of them. You know, I'm kind of hoping they're putting their best foot forward here. Going in optimistic, get all those bros going to Nebraska comments out now.
Now I'm going to go a little bit out of order here from how I experienced the park, but I'm saving the best for last, so we'll start out with the fort itself. Of course, Fort Robinson State Park contains a fort. Now what separates it from some other forts is that you can sleep in cabins and other restored buildings on the grounds, including what is now the main lodge. In addition to the typical camping available at state parks. They also have a whole plethora of activities available in peak season that I missed out on.
So right now I'm on the fort part, and it's a fort. It's pretty big, actually. There's the Historical Society Museum behind me. It's like, I kind of don't want to go in there.
I was worried about time and figured that the physical components of the museum would be stuff I had seen before, like guns and uniforms and other military paraphernalia from throughout the years. It was also an additional charge, so... Like all forts in the interior US, it was built because the US was manifesting destiny. Specifically for this one, since the Red Cloud Agency was moved to the area and it was the military outpost set up here. It was a key staging area for the Sioux and Cheyenne Wars. In January of 1879, it was the site of the Fort Robinson Massacre. The year before, Dole Knife's band of Cheyenne had surrendered and been taken to the fort. They were attempting to return to the northern Great Plains after being forced to modern-day Oklahoma. They had staged a breakout, however, it was largely unsuccessful. Around 60 escapees were killed, 70 recaptured, and about 20 were unaccounted for, either dying far away or actually escaping. Dole Knife and his family did manage to escape. The fort was continuously used as such all the way through World War II. Then it was decided that it should be preserved, and now it's a state park. I will, however, pay extra to see some fossils. The University of Nebraska-Lincoln had a museum on site with some fossils that were found in Nebraska and throughout the plains. Obviously, my frame of reference is what's alive today, but I feel like there's so many extinct mammals that just kind of look like mammal, but have some nonsense attached to them. Like, what's going on here? The highlight of the museum, though, was the clash of the mammoths. 2 mammoths locked in a deadly struggle forever preserved in stone. And is also the only fossilized mammoth fight that's been found. Also just another big mammoth skeleton in the middle. Going outside, I was curious as to why there were some rocks in a field over here. Another notable event that happened at this fort was that Crazy Horse, a notable leader of the Ogallala band of Lakota people, was killed here. He was stabbed in the back by a bayonet while resisting imprisonment.
Just a full unopened bag of jerky.
Maybe it was an offering? I don't know.
Right now I'm at one of the fishing ponds. There's a few scattered throughout the park. You know, I'm not much of a fisherman myself, but thought I'd check it out. You know, display as much as I can of what the park has to offer.
I can't attest to the quality, but they did have fish. Also, if I hadn't come out this way, I wouldn't have seen these bison, which are the 4 brown pixels you can see on screen here. Now we get to the part of the park that I'm usually most interested in, the trails.
Something to point out about this park is that it's very large. So like all of that's part of it. Of course, like all of this. And then down there you can see the fort itself, see that complex. But then all that over there, and then there's like a long road. Now I've already been to the end of the main road, and it goes to the Nebraska National Forest. And like kind of going along it, I kind of realized it's like, oh, this park is definitely more geared towards horse riders.
When I was driving on the long road, I was looking for places to stop and thought, oh, I'll stop at this pond. Never mind, it's under construction? Back to the trails, though, it was a pretty nice hike through the Badlands. I don't know if these quite count as Badlands. Yeah, they definitely don't, but I still think they're neat. These kind of like prairie cliffs. Besides trying to avoid crowds, another reason I try to go before the peak season is so I don't fry up like a bologna on a handrail. Like, if I asked you, is there a cactus in Nebraska? You'd probably say yes, because it seems like this is where that's going. But before this video, would you have known? Maybe, I don't know. I don't know your level of plant knowledge. Maybe there's a botanist watching. Point is, it gets hot and dry, and there is not a lot of tree cover.
I had a pretty long drive coming in yesterday, and at the end I was like, do I even like doing this? And I'd say, I guess I do.
I'll say it, I was enjoying my first Nebraska state park. I love a wide, sweeping view, and this park had plenty.
See, this road's fun because you can tell they paved it at some point, but then I guess gave up trying to maintain it ever.
Windmills were mentioned on the park map, and yep, there one is. Going on another trail, I only had time to check out a couple, but again, there's miles of trail in these hills. This was a lot steeper of a hike, but also a much more rewarding view in my opinion.
That is the view. Dang. That's crazy. You can see down there's my car. Went all the way up. It's pretty much like up. There wasn't too much switchbacks or meandering path. It's just kind of up.
From the other side of this ridge, I believe you can see all the way to South Dakota. Even though this was the last hike, I had one more thing I wanted to check out. That being the Old Smiley Scenic Road. Scenic it was indeed once you get past the pasture. There's a lot more trails through here as well, but we're getting into baking hours. I would say this drive was pretty scenic and maybe even made me smiley. And old? I did stop for one last lookout to look out. There's no way I typed look out to look. The creative writing class I took has clearly worn off by now. The park is in a region known as the Pine Ridge, which resembles the Black Hills, with a landscape dominated by ponderosa pines. I would also like to highlight the yuccas here, which scrape the hell out of my legs. Near the end of the road was another bison pasture where I could see them a bit more clearly.
Well, I'm on the way to State Park number 2. Pretty quick drive over the Chadron. I'm assuming it's Chadron. Might be Chadron. Chadron? Chadron. One of those is right. I really hope Fort Robinson wasn't the peak and that it's all downhill from here, but there's a strong chance there is.
Yeah, scenery in between wasn't too interesting, so we'll just get to the next park. Arriving at Chadron, my first thoughts were...
This does feel pretty similar to Fort Robinson, which isn't a bad thing. It is just a little bit like, alright, well, here we go again.
The parks were busier than I was expecting, and it took me too long to connect the dots that it was because of Mother's Day. Like, I knew it was Mother's Day, but forgot that, you know, people, like, do stuff then. Someone wasn't being a very good mother, though. Are there any eggs experts that could tell me what this is? Of course, most of what I do when I visit state parks is hiking on trails and seeing the scenery.
It was a little bizarre to be hiking for like 15 minutes and then just mowed field.
This was a pretty cool trail and looped around. I feel like I definitely chose the right way to go up, since on the way down I could see all the expansive views looking out over the park. Like Fort Robinson, Chadron is also located in the Pine Ridge region of Nebraska, which of course you can see with the ponderosa forest and sandstone cliffs again.
I do appreciate a good, well-marked trail, honestly.
Continuing down the trail, I encountered something I wasn't intending to find at all.
I've been given a bonus objective. I must find the raccoons scattered throughout.
Yeah, just a sign along the trail telling me to take a selfie and submit it, which, if I'm being honest, I probably will not have done, even by the time this comes out.
Devastating news. I just found out that I missed out on Kit the Raccoon in Fort Robinson State Park, and I just don't know if I can keep doing this trip anymore. Is that the first time I haven't worn my glasses in the video?
Now, of course, I do try and see what amenities are available at the park, even if I don't plan on using them. Here there's some camping, cabins, archery, fishing pond, and disc golf, to name a few. There's also a meeting hall, just in case you need to have your next meeting in the middle of the woods, far from any major city. Oh yeah, and there's a trading post that's closed.
There's also just a basketball court. Knowing my luck, I'd somehow end up getting it over that fence over there. They have a swimming pool, which is kind of interesting. I'm just so used to, state parks being, you are here to do outdoor activities, be in nature. Well, I guess it is an outdoor pool, but get in the lake, get swimmer's itch, have something slimy touch your foot.
Chadron is actually the first state park in Nebraska, being established in 1921, and the remains of one of the co-founders' cabins is still on the grounds. The name comes from the nearby town of Chadron, which gets its name from a French trapper whose name is spelled differently, but I'm guessing is probably pronounced like Chadron, but US place names change the pronunciation of things all the time. The park is also entirely surrounded by the Nebraska National Forest. In fact, there's a road that's only accessible through the park that takes you to quite the scenic viewpoint.
Dang, this is such a cool lookout. It's a shame it's not part of a state park so you can't see it. Nah, I'm kidding. Check it out. It is kind of a shame, though, that one of the best overlooks of the trip so far is not in a state park.
One last thing to mention, I appreciate there was a main loop drive rather than like a lot of branching roads, so I didn't have to backtrack that much.
Now, something nice about Nebraska state parks is that they're pretty much like all in a line, like along the northeast-ish border. At some point it comes to the east border. Like, I don't have to zigzag across the state, you know? So I've entered Cherry County, the county the next park is located in. You might think, oh, that means I'm getting close. Not really, because this is one of the most bizarrely large counties in the country.
Here we pass through one of Nebraska's most iconic landscapes. I guess that's to have cornfields. The Sand Hills. These are essentially just sand dunes covered in vegetation, and their relative difficulty to support agriculture means they've retained a decent amount of biodiversity compared to other nearby regions. In addition to the dunes, many small lakes dot the region. Unfortunately, I didn't get the best footage of them due to another Nebraska staple. In fact, bug eaters was an old nickname for Nebraskans. Now, this drive took up most of the rest of the day, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. In order to get to the park, I had to drive on the bumpiest road I've ever been on. Maybe it was a skill issue and I couldn't find the grooves, but no speed was working. After rattling my teeth, I set up camp ready to explore Smith Falls in the morning.
All right, we're getting started out with an early morning hike in Smith Falls. I think I came a little bit too early in the year again. At least some trees have green, but then you look around and some like those don't. They've got like little buds, but what are you gonna do? Come later, I guess, but.
I camped near the river and started out by hiking alongside it, seeking the eponymous falls.
So the river this park is along is called the Niobrara. I actually don't know how to pronounce it. I'm realizing there's a few Nebraska places I don't know how to pronounce. I guess 2 so far, but it's a pretty popular river for boating and floating down. So they have like a little dock, not really a dock, like little landing area.
Alright, so I was wrong on every vowel there. Apparently it's pronounced Niobrara. Okay, back to trying to find the falls.
I mean, there's no way that those are the falls, right? Hopefully.
What I thought was a viewing platform extended much further, where I saw another waterfall. Of course, that's still not the falls.
Oh yeah, no, that's and those are some state park worthy falls.
The boardwalk goes all the way through the canyon and gets decently close to the falls, although it is possible to get even closer to the falls with some stairs descending into the mud.
Now, I did bring some water shoes, but am I gonna do this whole hike again just so I can get a slightly better view?
The water was just a little bit chilly here. I got way more shots of the falls than I'll ever use, but hey, it's better than not having enough. Now, Smith Falls is actually the tallest waterfall in all of Nebraska at 63 feet, which I feel is both surprising and also not surprising at the same time. Smith Falls is named after the first homesteader on the land, Frederick Smith, although before then it was called Arickaree Falls, not just by the indigenous tribes, but also by early settlers in the area as well. The canyon and nearby area is a microclimate, being able to host plants like birches and aspens, which is quite unusual for Nebraska. They are typically found more north and are a remnant of the last ice age. As the temperature warmed and the glaciers receded, most of Nebraska couldn't host plants like this anymore. The state park is actually on land originally leased out from Fred Krzyzanowski and now by his family. It's nice that he decided that people should be able to see it, but it's kind of a bummer that the fact that this is a public area kind of hinged on one guy. How many natural wonders do you think are on private land that no one will ever see?
If I see one tick on this trail, I'm out. I'm not doing that again.
There is one hiking trail in the park that goes along the ridge. It has some things they label as falls, but are so minuscule I can't believe they got names. This hike takes you up the ridge, and you can get a little bit of a view here of the canyon, and it takes you into the prairie. Also a visitor center here, not too much to say there. On the way out, the car didn't rumble nearly as much, so it might have just been a skill issue.
Our next stop actually isn't a state park. What is it? Well, you're about to see. Here I am in Monowai, the least populated town in America, and unfortunately, the tavern is closed.
Monowai has a population of 1 Elsie Eiler, who's been running everything in the village by herself since 2004. Except on the census it says the population is 2, however apparently that was due to differential privacy, which is like a whole can of worms. She's the mayor, runs the post office, and the village's only business, the tavern, which is closed on Mondays.
I walked all the way out on the highway here when I could have just pulled over right there.
At its height, the village had a population of over 120, and well, yeah.
It's a shame the tavern was closed, because this is like one of those when am I ever going to pass through here again type of places. Apparently Monday is delivery day as well. I saw like 5 people stop there.
Just a short drive until reaching Niobrara State Park, which should sound familiar because that word was said like 3 minutes ago.
I feel like the wind's been pretty good on this trip, but no, we're back. This is the prairie experience I'm used to. Well, back there you can see the Missouri. Over there is South Dakota, and pretty cool view. All right, well, I guess it's time to go then. That's a cool view and all, but right now this is one of those parks where I'm just like, what am I doing? Because, like, I'm not here to, like, use the day use. I guess I'm going to hike around a little bit. There's probably, like, other scenic outlooks of the river along the road. And that's kind of, like, the main highlight of the park. Like, I guess these little prairie forest trails are neat. But when that's kind of all you're doing for a bit. I mean, I'm only on day 2. This series is me learning more and more that I should not be doing this series, but, or at least the way I do it.
These parks are meant to be visited for like a weekend, not back to back to back. I still want to try and hike down to the river though.
Look at the cabins they got here at this park. Like those are just, those are just houses.
I was questioning why I was doing this, but I couldn't let that keep me down for long.
Actually not. You know what? Hype this up. Comment below that I love Nebraska state parks. I can't force it, but it would be really funny if this became like the most viewed state parks video.
Yeah, what Past Me said. Who knows, maybe the Nebraska fandom will rally around this video.
Took the trail down behind me, see how close I could get to the Missouri, and well, there it is. Missouri, more like Pissouri, because I gotta take a piss in the river.
I didn't actually piss in the river, don't worry. I'm imagining someone watching this being like, you know, it's about time Nebraska got some recognition, and then immediately getting offended by that joke and disliking. I'm making up a person, but could happen.
I can go looking and see if there's a more normal way back up, because I do not want to go up where I just came down.
I did find a slightly better route. Now, the hike back up might have been short, but it was still decently steep, and I atrophied a lot this winter.
You know, maybe all it took was a strenuous hike to endear me to this place. It was mostly the last set of steps, but...
I saw a sign for a mosasaur site, and it has been established I'm a sucker for frontiers featuring fossils.
I guess I didn't know what I expected. I mean, I didn't expect the bones to be here, but like, maybe a sign or something, but nothing.
After all that, what did I go and see? A different outlook.
Here, you can actually see the namesake river. Still don't know how to pronounce it. And then you can see it flow into the Missouri.
Lastly, I took the one-way loop drive, which featured the most scenic outlook in the whole park, in my opinion. You can actually see the Niobrara and the Missouri clearly, as well as the whole park, so glad I finished with this so I had some motivation to actually see the rest of the park. Of course, this park gets its name from the Niobrara River, which you can see flowing into the Missouri. The word Niobrara comes from the Omaha Ponca language and means the wide-spreading river. The river is 568 miles long and begins its course in eastern Wyoming and winds up here. A 76-mile stretch of it is designated as a National Scenic River, beginning just west of Smith Falls and ending at Nebraska Highway 137. Of course, I should mention all the amenities. We got camping, fishing, various day use, a swimming pool, which I would not have expected to become a theme, and a horse section. Also, Lewis and Clark might have stopped here or something.
Now, there are a whole plethora of trails here, but I'm not going to check most of them out. I feel like I've already seen the major viewpoints. You might say, oh, about journey, not destination, but this journey's got a destination I'd like to get to before sunset.
Before I got to the next park, I made an impromptu stop in Maskell, which claimed to have the smallest city hall in the US. Which, like, probably. Also, I saw 2 statues of Liberty between here and the next park, Ponca. Located just outside the town of Ponca. Interesting artwork at the start, not too often you get more than the standard information board. Of course, I went straight for a viewpoint, though. Hope you like overlooks of rivers, because that is the theme for Nebraska.
So I'm at the Tri-State Lookout right now, and you can definitely see 2 states, because, you know, I'm in Nebraska right now. Across the river is South Dakota. There's a fire. I don't think you can quite see Iowa from here because I think it's over that way. Unless if you look all the way over there, if that's Iowa, maybe. I think there'd be like a placard or something explaining the 3 states,
But nope, I gotta make sure to explain Lewis and Clark. I cannot escape them. So the trail like passes by here is called the Overlook Trail, but I'm already at the Overlook, so...
I'm probably not going to do a lot of hiking here, because I did a lot of driving today, but...
You get a pretty similar view from the car, though. I guess if I was hiking, at least there wouldn't be as much bug splattering, you know, in the video. Here, though, you can actually drive down to the river, so you don't gotta worry about the return journey. The river's also a decent distance from the bluffs here, so they stand out quite a bit more, and it's a pretty cool area being seen in these tree-covered bluffs and, like, seeing them span into the distance. Shout out forested river bluffs.
Let's go. I found the way to the mosquito breeding pits. I came down here, was like, this is a neat little area, but I've been, like, standing here for 5 minutes. I just kind of zoned out, so very tranquil.
Here there's a trail to hike along the river, going back to the bluffs.
Not the season for the wildflower garden, apparently. It says this is the wildlife viewing area, so I'm gonna go until I see one wildlife. I hear it. Oh, there's something.
The squirrel I had seen scampered away in the time it took me to turn my camera around.
This is actually sick. This is for all you Merlin enjoyers out there.
You can have all these facilities, these cabins that are just small houses, increasingly elaborate pools, but I'm won over by some planks nailed together in front of a bird feeder. The habitat has noticeably changed from the prevalence of pines from parks past to a dominance of deciduous dotting the domain. In fact, we're in a different level 2 ecoregion, having moved from semi-arid plains to temperate prairies.
You know what this postcard thing reminds me of? That I completely forgot about the raccoon. Where was he in Smith Falls? Was he on the little half mile of trail I didn't see?
Going to one last thing.
Secret overlook they don't want you knowing about. No, genuinely, I didn't see like any signs for this. And look who's here. I didn't look up to see where he was, but there he is. He's genuinely at the secret overlook. It's kind of funny. It isn't as cool as the other one, I will give them that. Oh wait, what are those? What is that?
Okay, wait, the actual last thing is what I saw at the beginning. I had to figure out these 3 pillars.
They got a sturgeon. They got a sturgeon. S-tier park. S-tier park.
This art piece is known as the Towers of Time, created by Jay Cheddar, and depicts the history of this land. Of the 3 main pillars, one represents the present, another the past, and the third the past as well. But even paster. Specifically the Pleistocene and Cretaceous, respectively. You'll notice the legend, the sturgeon, made the cut twice. In the middle are the people who have inhabited the area, from the Folsom culture to the people in the Paleolithic, earth mound builders, and then the Ponca. The park gets its name from the Ponca tribe who inhabited this land before European colonization. I was at 4 in a row for parks I liked less than last, but I think this one I liked more than Niobrara, not to spoil the ranking section too much. Just a chill drive heading south to the next park where I'd be camping for the night, Eugene T. Mahoney.
Pulling up to the campsite. I don't know if y'all can hear that. This was a mistake. Turns out I'm in with earshot of the I-80.
It wasn't the worst thing in the world once I got used to it, but the humidity on the other hand. I had solidly transitioned to the Midwest at this point, just based on humidity level. Campsite was fine. I did end up choosing the worst one since it was close to the highway and far from the restrooms. What an excellent planner I am. Got started with my day just walking around a regular lake.
It's always nice to start a morning out on CenturyLink Lake. Thank you, CenturyLink, for this beautiful lake.
So Eugene T. Mahoney State Park, which I'll probably just refer to as Mahoney from here on out, is definitely a different kind of state park than what I'm used to. In fact, Nebraska as a whole has been different than what I'm used to. I'm pretty much just used to nature and camping, but a lot of them have had facilities beyond just like, you know, the visitor center. Mahoney has been the pinnacle of that. There's a lodge that you can stay at with a restaurant within. The swimming pools just kept escalating, and now there's a miniature water park. There's horses here, it's not BYOH. There's frisbee golf, mini golf, regular golf. There's of course boating and fishing, as well as some trails. I tried to see if they went down to the river, they did not. Still some decent views though. There's an activity center with rock climbing inside, as well as a zipline course which seems like it's operated by a third party. There's also a conservatory which I arrived at before it opened, but I checked out the Irish garden outside. There's one called Constant Companion and it doesn't seem so constant. You can also rent a bike. There's cabins, a theater. This is meant for a full weekend of activities. There's also a burial ground, which feels odd to mention in the rapid fire. It is here though. Hard pivot, this robin was just attacking my car for some reason. No idea what his problem was.
What the hell? See, I don't know if I call Mahoney State Park a dud, because it does have a lot going on, but it's just not quite what I'm looking for in a state park, but it's giving very summer camp vibes, but like summer camp for the whole family. Oh yeah, little known fun fact, E.T.'s last name was actually Mahoney. And I guess that would mean his first name was actually Eugene.
Just who is Eugene T. Mahoney though? Well, he was a Nebraska state senator from 61 to 76 and afterwards became the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission director. He revamped Nebraska's park system as visitorship increased by 2 million during his reign? Tenure? That's probably a better word. That's why he gets a park named in his honor. He also claimed his position was the second toughest position in the state, only behind the governor, which I'm like, whatever you say, man. I didn't have the job. I'm sure everyone in state government thinks they're second to the governor, but I've never been a treasurer, so maybe that's super easy, but neither is he, so.
Anyways, there's an observation tower here. You know, as cool as this lookout and viewpoint is. You know, you get to see the I-80, how beautiful. Why the whole floor gotta have holes?
So this tower is 70 feet tall, and what more do you want me to say? It's made of metal. It offers views of the land. I'll be honest, the views up here, not the most interesting thing, but you know, they're still kind of neat. I've said before that I enjoy getting up high up views of landscape, and this does kind of scratch my itch for that, and hopefully those clouds over there don't produce lightning while I'm on this giant metal beacon.
But up here you do have a good view of the Platte River. And speaking of which,
Platte River State Park is up next and right down the road.
I saw a water tower and I think an observation tower from the road. So it'd be kind of funny if this is like basically the exact same park.
Of course, what I noticed right away was the fact that there was significantly more trails here. Mountain biking seemed like a highlight, as there are mountain biking trails intertwined with the main hiking ones. However, the trails at this section started going downhill, which I'm sure is great for bikes.
The more I go down, the more I won't want to come back up, so I'm just gonna turn around now.
I like starting my hikes with the uphill and then hiking down on the way back. Always a little rough to expend energy getting to the bottom and then having to go up. Now, of course, like pretty much every state park in Nebraska, there's camping and cabins, but also teepees. Guess what? More than one park has a Guess what? More than one park has a bird viewing zone. In fact, they have a whole wildlife viewing shelter, which I didn't see any wildlife from, unless you count this big old bee here. Moving on over to a different set of hiking trails that's more aimed at hikers, less for mountain bikers.
They mentioned a waterfall, and I knew it wouldn't be Smith Falls, but
my disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined. I'm not gonna lie, this doesn't even feel noteworthy enough to like mention it on the trail map. So yeah, the trails here are definitely more deciduous, and there's only so much leafy forest I can see in a day and so much to talk about with it.
you know, this one does have a little bit of that like kind of summer camp vibe, but also has a bit more of what I'm looking for in a state park, which I guess is to say has a lot more trails. But
also an observation tower here, but now it comes in red. Okay, without looking it up, I would guess that it's the same height as the other one, because it looks like it's built basically the same.
I can feel this one swaying in the wind a little bit, and I do not like it.
So of course this park is named after the Platte River, which you can see from up here. Its headwaters are within Nebraska, near the city of North Platte, where the North and South Platte rivers converge. It empties into what else but the Missouri River. The name is thought to come from the French Rivière Platte, meaning flat river, although it was first called the Nebraska by the Oto people, meaning flat water. So the point is, the river is flat. I mean, so is the land around it, because we are in the flat. Now, unlike Mahoney, this park actually had a second, smaller wooden observation tower, which was connected to some kind of nature center, which I thought would be like a museum, but appears to be just where they hold events. The pool has completely downgraded, though. Now it's a spray park. There's also the usual various day use and sporting grounds and fishing lake, typical stuff, you know by now. Horse place. There's also something here called the Red Barn. What was its purpose? Being red? They like red here. There was a whole other section disconnected from the rest of the park dedicated to mountain biking. Well, I think it's connected via bike trail. But however, I didn't explore it since it was for mountain bikes, and I didn't want my kidneys turned to jelly accidentally, because, you know, there were people riding around on it. This park is pretty similar to Mahoney, so I made a Venn diagram to, you know, kind of summarize the two. Before I got to the next park, I needed to get some gas. What better place to get it than Peru?
Someone asks me if I've ever been to Peru, I'll say, yes. And they'll be like, why did you say it like that? And I'll say, well, I have been to Peru. For all I know, this town isn't even pronounced Peru, it's pronounced like Peru or something.
The last stretch of driving through the middle of nowhere, Nebraska in this video. Let's just sit here for a moment. Okay, you're skipping forward.
Well, here I am. It's the last state park, Indian Cave. You know, I knew it was only 8, but still flew by faster than I thought it would.
Now, of course, cave in the name, but it's at the far end, so let's see what else there is. There's a museum, it's closed, oh well, guess I'll go on some trail. I don't have too much to say about the trails. It goes through the forest. There's a lot of them. Moving on to the reconstruction of the town of St. Durain. The original had mostly been washed away by flooding and was located on the former Namaha Reservation. There are 2 parts of the ghost town. One seemed more like a summer camp type of vibe that hosted activities, you know, it had like a blacksmithing station and like a other station I forgot about. And the other one seemed like it had more specific recreations of buildings. The old school had a bell on it with no wards against rogue ringers, so I figured while I'm here I might as well. I mean, you know, there's no one around, what's gonna happen? After that I was like, okay, I should commit if I'm gonna ring it. Alright, I can do better than that. Whatever.
It's kind of funny that Nebraska is the most populated state I've done a state park video in so far.
Hey, look who it is. It's our good friend, the Missouri. Haven't seen them in a while. In addition to the forested hills, there's also riverside wetlands and some fishing ponds around. I forgot about that raccoon again, but who needs that two-dimensional trickster when I saw the real deal here? Of course, like every state park in Nebraska, there's an overlook of a view with a river. This graveyard here is also part of the town of St. Durain. How many state parks can claim to have a graveyard? At least 3, I feel like. Moving along, the road winds back to the river once again. Ozarks of Nebraska? Sure, why not? I guess I don't know what else would be the Ozarks of Nebraska. I mean, you can say anything is the blank of anything. Like, the Ozarks are the RC Cola of U.S. mountain ranges. Nebraska is the Saskatchewan of the U.S. Or Kansas City is the Paris of the plains. Oh, wait.
A prime contemplating life bench spot. Going to see the cave. It's all been leading up to this. That verdigris.
Just gotta walk on one last boardwalk.
There it is. There's the cave. Don't really go in the cave. You just kind of see it from here. And yeah, that's the last thing to see in Nebraska state parks.
Now this is the titular Indian Cave. Look, that's just what it's called, man. And I was hoping that there was some more information about, maybe what group of people specifically inhabit this cave, and it's all vague. Apparently the petroglyphs are of unknown culture and about 1500 to 1800 years old. It's kind of difficult to spot the carvings, especially with what has been carved on since, but one day if there are archaeologists, they will study Trish was here in 500 years. I'm not gonna lie, I was hoping for it to be more cave-like. It's still a nice little area, even though the petroglyphs are hard to see.
It ended with, I mean, not quite a bang, but not really a whimper either. Like somewhere in between. Like what's between a bang and a whimper? Like a half-assed bell toll.
Before we get into the rankings, I'd appreciate a like on the video. These take me a while to plan and edit, so all the support really helps me out, and I do appreciate all of it. If you want to see some stuff I do that's a bit more frequent, I'd recommend checking out my other social medias, which will be linked in the description. With all that said, let's get into the ranking. The ranking is based on my opinion and what I look for in a state park, and a big part of that is scenery, since there are so many activities available at several parks, and it's more about what I can see that's unique to each park. For example, there's a lot of parks that offer camping, but it's like, what am I gonna see while I'm camping there, I also typically don't factor in price and distance from population centers or what else is nearby, just the park kind of by itself. I'm also sort them into tiers, which are roughly comparable with the other states I've done this for. We'll get started in B tier. That's right, I think every state park in Nebraska is at least B tier. B tier parks I'd say are good, but not great. So in 8th place is Eugene T. Mahoney. As mentioned earlier, it has a lot of activities. Even if most of them don't appeal to me, I can see the appeal overall. So it doesn't have too much uniqueness, but it does have a lot. So I don't feel I can go lower than B tier, but this definitely could be higher for a lot of people. I also can't camp in every park, but when a park has camping, I try to imagine how much I would enjoy camping there, and I hope I would have picked up on the highway traffic. Then I feel pretty similar about Platte River, but it's a bit higher pretty much for just having a bit more trails. 6 is Niobrara. While it might not have as much to do as the parks already mentioned, it does have some pretty cool views for Nebraska. Key phrase being for Nebraska. In the grand scheme, still neat but not the best, solid B tier. 5th is Ponca. Ponca felt very similar to me, but had a bit more going on, although I don't think the lookouts were quite as cool, but I did like that you could really see the bluffs from below. As much of a joke as it might seem, the sturgeon art also did assist in pushing it above Niobrara. In 4th, just cracking the top half, is Indian Cave. Again, very similar. There's overlooks and trails and boats and camping, etc. But the cave does give it that slight edge to be pushed into 4th place. Also, the little town's kinda neat. In 3rd is Smith Falls. It is a pretty cool waterfall, but the park is a little one note. While I might not use most of the facilities in most parks, I do try to factor them at least somewhat into my rankings, and I think if this had a bit more going on, I would rank it higher. It is pretty much just the falls here and a campsite. They are cool, don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're enough to get into A tier though. The river views and outlook do lock it into what I'd say is a solid B+. Now we get on to A tier. 2nd overall is Chadron State Park. The scenery carries it to this spot, but it does also have quite a few activities. However, I have a soft spot for wide sweeping views, and Chadron's got plenty. I'm not counting the National Forest overlook, even though it is only accessible through the state park, so maybe I should get some credit for that. Either way, Chadron definitely has some impressive views of its own, so definitely an A tier for me. Fort Robinson is an A. I thought about giving it an S, but I thought about it and figured that S tier parks, I should know that's an S tier park, and I was kind of questioning it, so I figured it'd be an A. It's got wide sweeping views and cool rock formations, which are kind of the best way to get high tiers for my rankings. Plus fossils, even though those cost extra to see. It also has a lot of the staring activities, boating, camping, fishing. And that's the ranking, pretty short and sweet. Which of the parks would you most want to visit? Do you think I snubbed any? Let me know. You know what? I was pleasantly surprised with Nebraska state parks. There aren't that many, but I will say there is quality over quantity for Nebraska. They really felt like some highlights of Nebraska's nature, because I've driven across Nebraska a couple times now, and yeah.
Well, that's been Goshen Man, the Nebraska State Parks. Thanks everyone for watching. This is the 5th day I've done this in, so you can check out the other states if you haven't already. And I guess subscribe so you don't miss out on any future state park videos. And there's another one coming up quite soon.